Yeah, sweet. Yeah, look at the slides before the event. Check, 1, 2. Just wait for. We all good? Yeah, we all good? Hello. Oh, buzz. Hey. So welcome everyone. For those of you who weren't here last time, well, I should say first of all, the event is being recorded. So if you don't want to be included in any of the photographs, Charlie from Silicon Brighton is here. He does an amazing job at live streaming the event and also taking photos and things as we're kind of mingling and as the talk's going on. So just Charlie's just over here. So if you've got any questions or you wouldn't like to be included in any of that stuff, then yeah, Charlie's your man to have a word with. For those of you who weren't here last time, this is kind of a rough agenda of what we'll be running through. We are running a smidge behind because the pizza, the most important part of the night, was late. So yeah, we're kind of, I'm keeping my part brief tonight. But yeah, so I'll skip over this. So we are basically, the whole idea of Breaking Breadboards is just to champion the tech hardware scene in Brighton, basically. No other reason. It's a crossing of software and hardware, as you can see here. There are lots of other groups. Andy here, I can see in the front row, is one of those organisers from JS Brighton. So there's a lot of other groups in Brighton. This group, the idea is to kind of bring it over into the hardware world. And the general idea is, as long as there's a hardware element, then it's welcome here. Doesn't matter if you've got something to show. It doesn't matter if it's very, very simple or very, very complex. Yeah, we want to hear about it, basically. I can't remember why I put that slide in there, so I'm going to skip it. This is the general format of what we're doing. So we are still in our early days. This is only our second event. We're looking in the future to kind of build it out into workshops, hackathons, and that's why we're very much keeping the floor open at the moment. If you do have a project you're working on or an idea, or you know of a company that would want to get involved with us, we're very open to those discussions and having you kind of step up. And it's a community-led project, basically. So we've invited people from the very beginning to show their project, show what you're working on, and get people kind of networking and all involved, basically. These are some of our main links. If you head to breakingbreadboards.com, that's probably the easiest one to remember, and it has the meetup page link. It has, you know, the LinkedIn page and everything on there. So that's probably the easiest ones. You will see tonight we've got some QR codes around as well, which take you to a handy feedback form. So we are my trusty assistant here. Make sure you get him on camera, Charlie. That will take you to kind of a standard Google Forms kind of document. Just, I mean, if it only takes 2 minutes, we'd really appreciate the feedback just on what you've enjoyed. If you do have a project, I've spoken to a few people already tonight that have really interesting projects they're working on. The whole point is you're standing here and not us. So yeah, we'd love to have you involved. Yeah, if you could head there, we'll you know, we get all the feedback and everything, so that would be great. The main one for your diaries is the next event is Tuesday, the 8th of October. John's going to talk about some stuff that we've got kind of planned for that event already. So yeah, join us then. The next one is the 28th of November. And these are currently, these are our events until the end of 2024. So yeah, not too many to remember. Perfect. So now I'm going to hand you over to Maya from Freedom Works, and she's going to talk a little bit about the amazing space we're in now, and yeah, take you from there.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming today. I was so excited when Charlie said there was going to be an event here with essentially robots, so yeah, really cool. So my name's Maya, and I'm the community manager here, so I look after the space, that's the building, and all of the amazing teams that we have within the space. We're a co-working site, so we offer flexible packages such as hot desking, dedicated desks, all the way up to kind of permanent offices. But we're a lot more than that. We always like to say we're more than just a roof over your head. And that's just from the things that we like to offer. So everything's all inclusive. So we offer like tea, coffee, everything like that. That comes with it. And having myself on site to obviously look after you all as well. We're also big on building community as well. So hosting events such as this one, which is really good. Having quarterly shared lunches to get our members out, and free beer Fridays, which are really, really popular too. All of those things just to make sure everyone gets out, is speaking to each other, because we believe, you know, when people are speaking to each other and connecting and we have community, then that's how people can make things happen. So that's also really helping, you know, freelancers and new starting businesses as well, kind of get their business off the ground. But yeah, this is actually our newest space. So in Brighton, we've got 10 now across the southeast. And yeah, hopefully more. The goal is to get to the moon. And then actually this floor has newly opened as well. So you guys are the first people in it. So that's also really exciting. But yeah, that's us in a nutshell. I'd be more than happy to, yeah, if anyone wants to drop me an email or anything to speak more about the space. But yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. Yeah, it was so nice to be like the first thing up in this awesome new space. We've just started doing events here at Freedom Works, and we absolutely love it. And it's worth mentioning as well that the October and November events are both booked to be here as well. So it's fantastic. We're very, very happy to be here. For those of you I've not had the pleasure to meet before, my name's Charlie. I work in events and community engagement for Silicon Brighton. We're the host of Brighton and Hove's tech sector, and we support over 30 different meetup groups across the city, including Breaking Breadboards and JavaScript Brighton and many more. All the events that we run are free to join. They're available to people at all different levels, and they're hybrid. So for everyone who's in the room here tonight, there's also a live stream being run and a video that you can then watch back afterwards as well. And I just want to say a massive thank you to all of our supporters who you can see here, who enable us to do our work. And if there's a company or an organization that you know who might be interested in supporting us that you can't see here, please point them in our direction. I'd really appreciate it. I want to give a special thanks and shout out as well to Octopus Energy, James Chase, Hyperion Dev, and the University of Sussex Business School. These are 4 of our sponsors, and they play a really key pivotal role in enabling us to do all the fantastic work that we're doing. All of the fantastic work that we do, which would not be possible without a small army of helpers and volunteers and meetup organizers who basically make everything happen. So if you have any interest in giving a talk or contributing to running a group or an event, please come and have a chat with myself or any of my colleagues, online or in person, anytime. We would absolutely love to work with you. It'd be a pleasure. These are our values. I'll let you read through these whilst I'm talking, but the important thing is that if you feel that these aren't being upheld at any point, please come and let me know immediately. You can follow us on socials. We're at Silicon Brighton on everything on the internet and everything under the sun. We are having a fantastic and very busy July at the moment. Tomorrow night, there's only 3 events on there, but our team's actually covering 5 events in one night, which is probably a new record. We love it. And then next week, we're on the 23rd and 24th of July doing AWS Brighton User Group and Brighton Cloud. So it's all cloud computing next week. And what is it tomorrow? Brighton Pie and People Planet Pint and JavaScript Brighton. Wait, it's tomorrow. There you go. Are you ready? I hope you're ready. We're also marching in the... Did Doom just go off there behind me? Did anyone hear that? I don't know. Crikey. I don't know if I'm hearing things now. We're also marching in the Pride Parade this year again, which we did last year. I'm very excited to be back doing again this year. If you'd like to join us, you can. We have a bunch of different... We have a sign-up link, which we're sharing across all the different groups that we support, including the Breaking Breadboards group, I believe. It's up there, yeah. So if you go to the meetup page, you'll be able to sign up there. Please join our Slack community if you haven't done so already. I don't know where you are and why you're not there. And if you scan this QR code, it will take you to everything that I've just been through, the Slack community, the events calendar, everything that you could possibly need. So that's everything from me. I'm going to hand back to John. Look at that. Aren't we well organized? Oh, I'm going to jump back a slide because I feel like I might be jumping onto your stuff now. But thank you very much. Enjoy.
Ciao.
Thank you, Charlie. So hello, I'm John, and I'm going to stand in for our other important sponsor. So we couldn't do this as organisers without help from sponsors. We couldn't do it without AV support to actually get this stuff out. We couldn't do it without hosts to actually put these locations. And our pizzas tonight are brought to us via Kunkune. And Kunkune are an electrical microcontrollers components supplier in the UK. They're somewhere between the sort of Pier One, sort of Pie Hut and Pie Moroni, those guys who are lovely and great, and we've got lots of products from them over there, but actually they're quite expensive. And the sort of other more general ones where we could go to Amazon and eBay. Unfortunately, what you buy from Amazon and eBay doesn't always what it actually says in the description, because the people selling it don't actually know what they're selling. Kunkune's somewhere in between. They know what they're selling, and they're also really good to sponsoring us and this event and helping us out. So go take a look at them. They've got some great stuff and at really, really good prices, and they're really nice guys too. So so that is a word from our sponsors. So did I go the wrong way? That wasn't quite the slide I was expecting. Oh yes, competition time. So we've given out nice stick-on paper badges with nice, to wear, which nearly everyone's gone with. This doesn't really feel like breaking breadboards, does it? I mean, come off it. We're a techie community, and we're going to resort to sticky paper for our badges. We need to do something better. So I'd like to propose a competition for our next meetup to see if we can make some badges. Now, obviously, here's one I prepared earlier. Now, this badge is a TFT screen being driven by a Raspberry Pi Pico, and it's all coded in C++, and it's web enabled, and it's, there are much easier badges available. Pie Moroni sell the Badger 2032, which look like that, which are programmable in both Python and C++. ESP32s have some lovely e-ink displays that you can get, and there are some even easier badges that are already sort of all configured, and you just type in the text that you want. So next time, badges. Now, my fellow co-founders have all agreed that they are definitely going to be building badges. Okay, so I'm sure that paper badges will be available next time as well. But yes, so please do. We'd love to see some really, really exciting badges. There may be a prize. We haven't worked well out what that is or how that's going to work, but there may be a prize, and nor have I worked out how we're actually going to judge it. So, but please do join in and go for that for next time. So that should take us hopefully to pitch, of course, next event. If you've got anything, perhaps how you built your badge, we can bring that along and talk about it. We'd love to hear it, and you've got the feedback form. So we will transition almost seamlessly now into the first of our show and tells, which is going to be me. John, would you prefer a flip-on mic? If that would be permissible, yes. I'm better at that than sticking those up my nose.
Cool. Right, I'll take this.
Thank you. 1, 2. Can everyone still hear me? Are we good? So today, hello, I'm John. I know you've only just met me, but we'll do that again. So I wanted to talk about telegram delivery and the world of telegrams and bringing telegrams to a bot. Now, bottom line up front, the demo ain't going to work. Sorry. The demo should work, but it won't connect, unfortunately, to the internet today. I don't know why, but yeah, never mind. We were going to talk about Telegram. So, is that going to work? Yes. So Telegram, I'm quite new to Telegram, actually. I've been using WhatsApp for years, but I only really got recently into the world of Telegram. Mainly, well, partially I was introduced to it by people on Grindr trying to sell me cryptocurrency, which is the main reason that I think Telegram exists. But I then found that there was actually a really interesting web service API available to it. And it's quite a nice web service API because it actually can be driven completely in a pull nature from the client, which is great if you happen to be on a battery-powered device and you go to sleep for a couple of minutes, come online, answer all your questions, and then go back to sleep again. So it's that sort of behavior, which I was quite interested in. So this talk is really about how could we bring Telegram to something as low-powered as a Raspberry Pi Pico W. And for anyone who knows, so that is a Pico W on the right there. They are relatively slow, 120 megahertz sort of processors, dual core, not a great deal of RAM, but they are Wi-Fi enabled, and they're wonderful. It's amazing what you can do with them. So I set up and I built a wonderful Telegram bot, and I allowed that Telegram bot to have a menu of commands that it would answer. So it could tell you what the temperature of the unit was. It could set a color, and what it would actually do is change the color of those LEDs on that screen there on the front. Or it could give you a test message if you actually sent it the command test. So that's what I built and tried out. And at this point, the idea was to get you all actually playing with it while I'll go through the rest of the presentation, so you didn't actually have to listen to me. But now that it doesn't work, you're going to have to listen to me. Never mind. It's very noisy at the back there, isn't it? So for those of you who don't know me, and I have to sort of pitch myself because yeah, I haven't always been an embedded developer. My background really in recent years has been running architecture teams for various corporate customers and companies, everyone from PlayStation to Legal and General, with a bit of time in Sainsbury's in between. But these days, actually, I spend all of my time actually playing with this sort of kit. And I actually am trying to help other people play with this sort of stuff. So I publish courses on how to build embedded systems, IoT, and some robotic technologies on Udemy. I have a free channel with loads of stuff on YouTube. If you've not found it, please do. Subscribers and people watching it is always good. My sponsors love that. And website there as well. So, and if you go on there as well, there is actually a video of me actually getting one of these things to run Telegram bot API, and that actually does work. I even show how you can lock it down so it's secure, so that you don't allow the great unwashed to actually connect to it and actually get it to do anything. But yeah, wow. So what was I going to do? What is this board going to do? Well, I thought I'd give a little bit of a magnified version of the board there, because I know it's quite small up here. Basically, all I've got there is the Pico W itself, which is running all of the code. And then it's got that string of LEDs, which are what they call WS2812B LEDs. They're basically serially controlled string of LEDs. So you can set each of those LEDs to any RGB color you like separately. But you only need a single pin coming off of your Pico to do it, because it's a serial protocol. That one of the things with working with those LEDs is that they're 5-volt devices. And although you can get away to an extent with 3.3 volts, it doesn't always work and isn't as reliable. The factory says spec says they are 5 volts. So the chip in the middle there is actually a line level booster, so going from 3.3 to 5 volts. So that all of the signaling to those LEDs is then in 5 volts. And then on the right of the screen there, there's a 0-2040, which I'm just using for flashing the Pico. It's just really for development purposes. So it's what I use to actually push code onto the device. So Telegram. What's so great about this Telegram bot? Why is it so useful, I think, for devices like this? Well, it is the reason that you can actually program these things by pull and just actually issuing web services. But before you do that, the first thing you need to do is you need to create your bot and actually register that. And believe it or not, that is a simple conversation with another bot on Telegram service called the Bot Father. And you literally have a couple of questions that the Bot Father asks you, like, how many to give it as a username, what do you want to actually call the bot, and that's it, and it's done. And then you've got a bot, it gives you a key, you enable that key, you bung that key in your code, and you're away. So it is a web service API, so and it's pure RESTful web service API. So there is no need to log in, there's no need to hold any tokens. You are actually just issuing a single request and getting a response back, which is really, really nice. So the first command my device starts when it boots up is actually sends out a list of these are all the commands I would like to make available and tell the clients that you can do. So all of that, stroke temp, stroke blue, stroke green, stroke red, etc. All of that gets pushed out via that set my commands web service. Then everything else gets triggered really through this get updates. Get updates will get the list of all of the most recent messages that have been sent to that bot. Now, there would be a danger here because a Pico W is not a very big device. It hasn't got a great deal of RAM, about 250 kilobytes from memory. You could easily get web services and a complete dump that would actually use up very large portions of that very, very quickly. So you can actually put limits into this of saying how many requests should I actually get each time and what was the last request that I'd seen, so that you actually continue to move through that list. But it's a nice sort of API, and it then gives you a response back that looks a little bit like that, which is basically just giving you a JSON message with all of the data back of all of the connections, who's talked to you and what command they've sent you. And then, so once we got a command, then I suppose we ought to respond, because I can turn an LED on, but we should tell people that we've got an answer. So the final one I implemented was the ability to send messages back and using the send message web service. Again, you know what the chat ID was, which you had from the previous update message, and then we can send any text we like. So really, really easy to develop and program. So I've got a whole library and whole set of examples that I put up on GitHub on this, as well as YouTube demo of how to do that. Now, I have built this all in C++. Now, I'll come back to there may be better ways of doing this, but all of this is written in C++. And mainly because I write a lot of things on C++ on these devices, and I can pour an awful lot of stuff onto a device if I use C++. At the bottom of that stack, it's then using the Pico's SDK, which is really important for it. Then I want to use a multitasking framework. So I use a service called FreeRTOS. That gives me the ability to have threads running in the background, looking after IP stacks, looking after connections and sockets, and keeping them alive, rather than having to try and juggle that all in a single thread, which is actually very hard. We use the CYW43 library, which is the Wi-Fi chip that is on board those processors. The LWIP, which is the IP stack, lightweight IP stack. It can be a pain in the ass to work with at times, but it's that's the IP stack that is built for the Pico, or migrated for the Pico. Now, all web sockets that all web services I can find on the internet, including telegrams, are secured. They're all on TLS, and we therefore need a TLS library to be able to handle it. And the library that I've chosen to use is WolfSSL. If you are playing around with these things in C or C++, I really highly recommend WolfSSL as the library. Its documentation is vastly superior to any of the other libraries I've found out there. And the better the documentation, the faster you can get it working. And that's really the important bit. And then we need a library for HTTP to do the HTTP requests that web services are based on as well. And then some stuff to be able to parse JSON as well. That is it. That is the stack. But as you see, it's quite a lot of libraries that are needed to do this, to actually get one of those things to talk web services and talk to the wonderful world of Telegram bot API. Oh, and there's one more, some code I wrote on top. So explanation of how to use all of those libraries together and make them run web services clients. I actually distilled all my knowledge of how to make all this working and placed it into a course on Udemy with loads of examples of how to do that. So if you are going in that direction, ping me a message and I'll send you a discount voucher, and you can play with those things. And as I said, it's all on YouTube. On my channel on YouTube, there's examples of me doing all that and showing that actually it does work. And in my own house, connectivity works as well. Yeah. So C++, or the other thing we could easily run on these is MicroPython. Actually, this project would be vastly easier to do in MicroPython, because in MicroPython, you can actually do a secured web service connection pretty much out of the box. And it's very, very easy. MicroPython has its other disadvantages, and it depends on what your workload is and what you're doing. I recently did some test workloads between MicroPython and C++ on a Pico, and I calculated the value of pi to 1,000 in it. How many times do you think I could calculate the value of pi in MicroPython? More than 10? Anyone? Less than 10? Pardon?
In a second, or
In a minute.
in a minute?
In a minute, to 1,000 decimal places in MicroPython.
We don't know enough, but I'm going to go for 100.
1.
Just one.
38 seconds on a single core. Now, obviously, we've got 2 cores, so I can do it twice. In C++, on a single core, I can do it 188 times. I can run it on 2 cores. I can do it over 360. There is a significant difference between how MicroPython runs and how C++ runs. That doesn't mean that I'm declaring that MicroPython is rubbish. Far from it. But it does declare that actually using the right tool for the right job is probably important. Have I used the right tool for the right job on this example? Probably not, because actually I think what I've built here would actually be easier to do in MicroPython. But for a lot of other things where I'm doing more concurrent tasks, actually C++ has significant advantages of what I can pour onto that processor.
You tried Rust?
I haven't tried Rust, no. I've thought about it. Much as I've also thought about Go, which is another one. Some people on the internet are constantly trying to drag me into running Forth on the Pico, and there's a really big group for running Forth on the Pico. I'm just not entirely sure I can quite understand why. Yeah, not quite where I want to go at the moment, but there are lots of languages. But yeah, Rust is interesting. Go's interesting.
Rust or Go SDKs for the Pico?
There are.
There are.
Yeah.
Compose or something to see.
How mature they are, I think, might be a question. Would you want to run production code on that? I don't know.
Stick with C.
So I certainly have. There's plenty of production code that I've written now on those in C and C++. So yeah, I probably will stick with that. There is also that bit of what you know best. But this was going to be a wonderful demo, but connectivity doesn't work. Please have a look at the YouTube channel and the video on that, because actually it will show that I can normally get this to work, but it's not going to be my night with this today. So there we go. And yes, find me as Dr. John EA on YouTube. And I dress in this strange way to bring you into this exciting world of the luxury hotel that has all of this tech in it for you to play with. Cool. Any questions as we transition?
Are we still doing pizzas for 10 minutes planned that you told me about earlier?
Yes, we might be running a little short on time. So
Okay, should we go straight into the next? What do you think?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll switch to Key. I think he's just nipped out for a minute. We'll switch to Key, and then people can maybe ask John questions kind of in the changeover, grab some more pizza.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Has anyone got any questions that they want to ask John in that case?
Unless there's anything pressing, yeah, if anyone's got any questions there.
All right, let's do 5 minutes of pizza and music whilst we do changeover then. Sweet, back in 5 minutes.
my thing, I guess. So I'm afraid my slide deck I haven't got printed out, so I can't remember actually what I've put in the slide deck. So we'll find out when we turn the pages. But so yeah, Mike asked me to come and talk about a project I was talking about in the pub after the last breaking breadboards. I was like, yeah, go on, why not? I'm always a bit like, oh, it'd be great to see some lines of code on the screen and actually see some stuff. What have I not put in my presentation? Any lines of code? Sorry. They are there. They're moving around. They're changing languages a bit. But so me, I'm a tech person, really. Work in IT support from first line through to third line. Done LED video walls for events and other eventy type stuff. Now I work sort of in the SCADA sort of domain. Done some stuff with train station control systems, and now I work with power station control systems. Although I don't really, in my day job, get involved at this level. I kind of touch on the interfaces to the hardware and talk to the interfaces, but I don't actually deal with the hardware. So background to this project. So this project's called MiBar, M-I bar, and started off with a phone call. Back in my old events days, it was all freelance. You get a phone call. Can you come to this place? Can you do this thing? Oh, it's tomorrow. La la la. But quite often phone calls made little adventures happen. You know, can you come to China this afternoon? Things like that. It isn't an impossible phone call to get. But anyway, so phone friend rings me up. Do you know anyone? Not a thing yet. No real money yet. Hard to find someone. So send off some emails to try and fulfill his proposition, which what he wanted to do was he's an advertising person, really. And he thought it'd be really cool to put a screen up, show people adverts whilst they wait for their beer when you've got like a stadium event or something like this, and there's lots and lots of people all queued up waiting for beer, and you can sell this advertising space whilst they wait for their beer. Then somehow he came across a company called Bottoms Up, and hopefully, yeah, here we go. So this is Bottoms Up, and this is what Bottoms Up make. They make this beer dispensing system, which, I mean, you can see how quickly it dispenses beer of varying sizes, and these are like, I think that one's actually a bit speeded up, but this is, oh, that was definitely speeded up. Here we go. Right, that's a sort of reasonably sensible speed. You know, it takes about 6.5 seconds to fill a pint glass, and then you put a telly behind it, and yeah, okay, yeah, so you put a telly behind it, and you sell some advertising space. Oh dear, all the stadiums have already got all of their digital advertising all sold. However, this, and then take away the bar staff and put a PDQ machine in place, and now you've got self-service beer. What could be better than self-service beer? Now, yes, there's potentially some licensing issues. If it's in the demise premises and all this sort of malarkey, you're probably okay with it. Not my problem, that bit. So that was kind of the concept. Let's do something with a card machine and this existing beer valve technology. So all the dealing with getting beer in and out existed. So this is the 15th of December, just gone. This lot turned up at my house. You can see the Christmas decorations and paper and stuff in the background here. And a guy from the beer valve company drops off this stuff to me. So then in my office at home, I had some gas, some cellar gas, a beer keg, but unfortunately only a cleaning keg. So, and I think this thing's called a fob, and the gas regulators. And then this bit here is the sort of the magic of it, if you like. This is the Bottoms Up's dispenser, and then in this gap here is where their keypad would go, which does the normal way they would vend beer and set the fill levels and such like. So I mean, might want me to make this a bit of the journey of the project. So obviously at this point, you're now thinking about your project. What's my IO? What am I trying to do? And one of the bits that we didn't do or didn't really have an idea on was the full sort of user journey of how the user walks up to it and interacts with it. Because first off, I was thinking there'd be no screen at all, and you'd just be able to walk up to it, and you have a certain degree of screen on your PDQ machine that then says, give me some money. But that rapidly became not a thing. So yeah, what are the inputs and stuff? So on this thing here, the main thing is we've got a cup sensor, which detects when the top bit's got a cup engaged, a glass engaged. There's a flow sensor in there that's just a spinny thing in the beer pipeline that just sends you a blip. And then we've got what they call an EKD, an empty keg detector, which is just a micro switch in here that when this float drops down, you know you've run out of beer, so then you don't serve any more beer. And this stuff is all very much to do with bottoms up sort of selling points and things, because now the distance from the cellar to the beer pump, you don't lose that beer when you run out of beer, and then you put the new barrel on, and then your lines are all ready to roll. And again, this is think stadiums, and you know, with this many people deep at the bar, and everybody's going, give me 8 pints of lager, please. You know, half time at the football, these sort of scenarios, which again is where this being a vending solution, it was seen as this will complement the bar in those high volume moments. You put these machines there and the bar staff can deal with, oh, and I want a Pinot for my partner and a packet of pork scratchings, but 80% of your people here are like, I just want 4 pints of lager, and they just go to the machine. And then the outputs, there's a solenoid, which does the all-important start the beer flowing. A couple of LEDs, which are just down under here, which are just for eye candy, really. And then the other bit was then doing some video triggers and also talking to the API for moving the money around and knowing whether or not the money's been authorized as well. That becomes a bit annoying if you've got lots of beer and you're not getting the money back in for it. I mean, that's one of the great things with coming to these events. You don't have to do that moving around to the money bit. You just turn up and get given the beer, which, thank you, Silicon Brighton. Yeah, round of applause for Silicon Brighton there and their sponsors. So yeah, so there's a whole thought about the HMI, the human machine interface. And I was initially, because of some other things to do with LED screens and stuff like this, I was thinking the video surface was going to be this big, massive advertising thing and maybe a little bit of information on it. But then it was like each one of these beer pumps is going to need its own compute for doing the video. So it's like, oh, let's buy a little cheap PC. Then, because it was something I just knew of, I was going to use OBS, which is possibly even what you're using for the streaming, or you might be using vMix or something like that. But yeah, but so it's that sort of a type product, which then has this thing called Companion, which gives you a really easy web API to drive these things, which, because being a hardware interface type thing, I'd gone, yeah, let's use the Pico. The Pico's got to be the way to go on this. So I went down the Pico route and made some of my first bits up with the Pico, which are what some of these are. So, I mean, there was also, because you needed, there was the sort of, how do you choose between a pint and a half pint, but then do you really care? Do you not just buy pints? So there's a bit of, you know, buttons and things you might want to be able to do that selecting. And then we sort of moved on to our first prototype board to go into a prototype box that then, once I'd squeezed it all into there, didn't prototype at all, because I think I probably shorted out a few of the I/O pins, which then, you know, dragged all the power out of it and it didn't work. But of course, yeah, you build these things out on some breadboard first. So I went down the MicroPython route because I can't really write C. I you know, I'd spend more time in Google than in my IDE if I was trying to write something in C. And I kind of knew these. I'd played with MicroPython a few years ago on such devices and thought, well, it must have got better by now, surely. It sort of has, it sort of hasn't. For those of you who know Python, there's some weird stuff when you use MicroPython, especially when you start using classes and modules in other files, where just always do a hard reset. Don't just press run, because your changes in your classes and things don't become a thing. It's sort of kind of in memory in some way already. So you're running the old version of your class still. And yeah, just do a hard reset of your Pico every time. It'll save you hours of grief, trust me. But yeah, so I had quite a lot of fun doing stuff on the Pico. Again, similar sort of things with the Telegram thing. You know, you're talking to an HTTPS web API to talk to your card vendor. And then there was also a requirement floating around one of the upsells of this is because you've now got a beer pump that's internet connected, you can now just pump your telemetry data into something. It doesn't really matter, but then you can do, you know, graphing of sales and sales times and volumes and all that sort of stuff, which, you know, people love now. Yeah, put it in a data lake and you can do some reporting on it, and you're like, yeah, great. Don't know what I want to know, but you know, data is gold. So that was one of the things that we were thinking of there. So yeah, that's what we did there. Yeah, so here's some more pictures of the early iteration of that board. And this is a sort of breadboarded version of the Pico. A little board here that drives the solenoid. And then here's the beer pump. These also come in like I kept calling them a double sink unit. So it's like two of those beer valves next to each other, which we rapidly decided actually makes for quite a good user interface because you've got two hands and you can pick up 2 pints of beer quite conveniently. And the amount of I/O needed, you need about 6 I/O lines, you know, one for the cup, one for the flow, one to drive the solenoid, one for each of the LEDs, and the empty keg detection. You know, it fits quite nicely on the board and stuff as well. But then you suddenly go, oh, that actually makes the whole, has somebody put the left cup down or the right cup down? Have they put that one down, taken that one off, put that one down? Makes that whole, do they want 1 pint on that side or 2 pints on that side? And it makes a whole new level of logic. So here we are. This is, there you go, on it goes. Up comes the water, not beer, dull. And there you go. Boom, works. Great. There we are. 29th of December. And, you know, if we go back here, 15th of December. So there we go. So what's that? 14 days or something. Oh, look, and I've finished my wrapping as well. Look, the wrapping paper's gone. So, yeah, there you go. Minimum viable product. Brilliant. Let's get it to market. Ship it. But what went wrong?
Was it a full pint?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And I mean, your beer is clearly watered down, isn't it? So yeah, we've got minimum viable products, which, you know, any of you who work in Agile love that. Minimum viable product, ship it. So wanted to stay on the Pico, wanted to stay headless because that gave advantages of you've not got an operating system to look after. It's a really thin layer then. Turned out digital rights were a potential issue to stay. Oh, yeah. So the digital rights is where I was thinking about as I say, the stadiums have got all of that stitched up. So this was the hardware that had been designed by my friend who'd made the original phone call to me that kind of looks like a Costa coffee machine. Yeah, so, and again, it had the double sync unit. So this is what we were then interfacing to. So it's like, right, well, we've got to work with having this screen. having a screen in portrait as well is really annoying, just because you can kind of dev it, but you kind of, when you're deving stuff, you go, well, it doesn't matter that I'm deving it the wrong way around. But you're like, well, I kind of want to make it right. But then you go, oh, my monitor keeps falling over because it doesn't stand up on its side. And so that was a bit annoying. And well, I'll come back to a bit of that. So then I took my little board here and realized that I really can't solder, and it was really rubbish. And I knew these guys here, and I knew they could solder and do really good things with electronics, and were much more down that end of the stack. So I said, hey guys, or Sam, can you just solder this board up for me? And he went, oh, Keith, that board, don't want to do it like that. I mean, you might as well just spin a PCB. Yeah, we'd send it off, and it's really cheap and really easy. So we did, because the other talks with the other people involved in this were all sort of moving fairly well and things. So yeah, we spun a board, and here's the circuit diagram, the schematic of the first board, and here's the actual board of the first board. There's a few challenges with that board, and a few lessons learned in various directions, and a few sort of thinking about how we interface with it, how we were then going to package it, and various other bits. So we then did a board version 2. And here is the board version 2, and the circuit diagram's got more complicated. Of course it has, because also now we're thinking, well, you know, we might have a little programming display that might be a 16:2 display, so you can set the levels for the you know, for your beer, and well, you know, then you want to set the price, of course, and you know, there's all those sort of interface problems that you've got to deal with. And I mean, I've been thinking also about maybe doing this via MQTT, because that was how I was going to do the telemetry data. But then now, having seen Telegram as well, I thought, oh, that'd be an easy way to send that. But you don't necessarily want people dynamically changing the beer price. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of, and then also we've been talking about buttons and things for being able to, you know, select or increase number of pints, or, you know, such like functions. Because, you know, then it's like, well, you know, maybe I can just make a counter go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then tap your card, and then, you know, it just tells you which beer pump to put a cup on. You know, there was a whole bunch of questions there. So this next board, really, I guess the point of that is this next board is, you know, got repeater LEDs here for when the valves are open, and it's got a fault and a status LED, just so you can know it's, you know, connected to the Wi-Fi and things like that. Because of course, at this point, we're now also thinking about, well, we're going to send these out. So the idea was that these would probably become rental units. So you basically just want to send them out the door, not hear from the customer again, and they bring them back after the weekend and go, yeah, they were great, we'll rent them again next weekend. And you go, yeah, cool. And that was kind of the idea. But of course, then when they ring up and go, oh, the card machine won't tell the beer pump to vend the beer, you want to be able to have some, you know, some feedback on here, so you can go, is the green light flashing? And, you know, oh, if the green light's not flashing, you need to do this. And, you know, yes, that's always the good starting point. Tom, you've got a job. Yeah, so yeah, MicroPython's has got better. And yeah, now reboot, you have these shadows in MicroPython. VS Code has got some nice plugins for MicroPython. So yeah, so now, okay, well, surely we've got a proof of concept by now and something that works. Well, then it was all change again, really. And I guess it was we took it up to a warehouse in Heathrow, where some other people involved in the project that were going to become sort of more of the logistics side of it. So that's where the coffee machine was, and we plumbed it up, and it was kind of fine, but the internet was a bit too far from the AP and various nightmares like that. The cheap computer that I was using to drive the display was really cheap and really slow and really a nightmare. And it's sort of like, well, what are we saving here? And I'd sort of been trying to avoid going, oh, this is surely a Raspberry Pi thing. But then because I sort of wanted to stay away from having the OS stack to deal with. But it was like, this is a Raspberry Pi thing, isn't it? So we moved to the Pi, and so this board here was my original beer pump simulator board, and then it went from this I/O connecting to the Picos to the I/O connecting to the Pi, and then here is, so this is the actual machine actually delivering actual beer. So that's kind of quite exciting, and it was reliably stopping at the same level. And this was a summer barbecue. Well, I say it's summer barbecue. I mean, it was sort of February time, I think. But the weather's really nice as well, because so these guys here are they are an events company. So but you can see the light streaming in here. So they are an events company. So they're now into big, busy event season. So there it is, serving beer. Boom. That was, hurrah! Thank you. So that was the first iteration of the Pi driving it, which unfortunately wasn't really quite ready at the time, but I needed to get it connected to the pump, and the pump was by then in Heathrow, just to check that the Pi was fast enough at reading the sensor for the flow meter to know that it stopped the beer regularly. And I hadn't quite had enough time to deal with then getting the web API hooked into what was now full fat Python. So things I now need to do is now box up the Pi with some power to then drive things. So this is kind of where I've got to with that, where these are going to be the I/O for the empty keg detectors, so the 2 taps, and some mains power coming in, a power supply to give you 24 volts to drive the solenoid driver boards, and the Pi is essentially what it's going to end up being, and then just a couple of resistors, and I might even throw in a couple of transistors, and I might get somebody to make me a little board to put the resistors and transistors on. But again, so now in a way because we had all of this I/O on the Pico, it was like, well, we've got to present that up onto a connector just so we can use it and stuff. But now it's like, well, let's not bother. Let's just use the bits we need, and they're all there and available if we want to pick them up later anyway. So the challenge is to have got this far. I mean, I ended up out the country for 20 days. Sam went to Australia for 10 days. The main project lead person, he changed jobs. Then he had an investor lined up who is a nightclub owner, and nightclub owners are nightclub owners, and he thought better of going into business with that person. And now the rest of the marketing team, or the people that will be marketing this, are busy doing their marketing of their normal stuff for their summer gig as such. So it's all sort of ground to a halt again a bit. And also, I hate doing web front end stuff, and I need to put a web front end onto. So basically, the idea is that the Pi just has a monitor connected to it, and you just run it in kiosk mode, stick a web page on there, and then that gives you your whole interaction of please put your cup on the machine, and then there's just a timer. It times out after a few seconds of no cups moving around, and then it just sends the payment to the card reader and says, look, you've got to tap the machine if you want the beer to come out, and either you do or you don't, and it times out and resets the storyboard, if you like. But so it's been quite fun getting this far. It was quite a nice little project. It's as I say, it's gone from a Pico thing to a Pi thing. Ended up spending loads of money on it, loads of time on it. I mean, my friend, we did negotiate a price at the beginning. I've spent all the money he gave me on actual, let's buy some pies because, you need a couple of pies to devil. And let's buy some. These are really expensive buttons, £5 a button, even off of Alibaba, £5 a button. So yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know if there's. Do you want any more or?
No, as long as you want, really. Has everyone got
Yeah.
questions?
So yeah, go on.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions. Yeah, sure. So the first, all good? Yeah, so the first question was, with the company you're working with, bottom up, how easy was it to get sort of the hardware off them to sort of test with?
That's so I'm not quite sure how my mate approached them, but we actually had, so they're an American company, so they're big in sort of baseball and that sort of type sporting stadium. The UK guy for them, he was like really excited, and in fact they're still quite excited about working with us in some way. And yeah, there's some sort of potential avenues there, so that was quite cool. I don't know if anything commercially went on for getting the hardware or what commitments there were there, but yeah, he rocked up to my house, brought down the cellar gas, the cleaning keg, this mock-up cellar thing, and sort of showed me how their keypad works, but then hooked me into their US guys. They actually sent me their their drawings that they send to China for the components that make up. I mean, these are full Hall effect sensors, so a magnet moving through a coil essentially for both the clunky bit that goes up and down when the cup goes on and the flow meter. They're both Hall effects, and they sent us the actual spec sheets of the actual sensor they're using. So I mean, I could go and buy my own sensor from RS, but not have the metal work of their valve. So yeah, that was really good, and they were really helpful and easy to work with from that point of view. And yeah, and silly things like telling us that these connectors here are JSP something Japanese. Yeah, and it's like a really common motorbike power connector and things, but they're really horrible as well. They're really horrible to crimp and such like. And in my box over there, I've got a load of them. You can buy them pre-made on Alibaba, which is great because then you don't have to crimp them. And then this is a slightly different version of the same series of connectors for the solenoid that's just slightly bigger pins. So yeah, sorry, and another.
Yeah, so the other question was, how do you sort of verify that the person buying the alcohol is allowed to buy the alcohol? So if it was like, a teenager or something.
Don't care. They should be positively encouraged to get smashed. Teenagers nowadays are far too mollycoddled. No, the concept is it's within the demised premises of the bar, and that's the bar owner's problem. It's the licensee's problem. There's a couple of other companies that are doing similar things to this. Not doing bottoms up, doing beer down, I guess. But no, exactly. And quite often the way they do it is it seems to be like a U shape of your coffee machines with a bit of fencing down the middle. Everybody queues up down the middle, and it's like at the train station going to the ticket machines. And for the giving out the cups, I actually had human being in the queue down the middle giving out the cups and doing the challenge 25. Okay. So
I was thinking like something like Yachty or Yoti, however you pronounce the company, and they do that sort of image recognition of your face, and that sort of guesses how old you are. So yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, there was talk of that certainly, and that was one of the things that some of the other people in the group of us were talking about, and I kind of just went, yeah, maybe. Should we get this bit working? Yeah. And then we'll put OpenCV and a camera and then go, oh, look, now my pie's got smoke coming out of its CPU, and now we've got to offboard it to an Amazon Web Service. And, I wanted to keep this skinny and easy. There's, and the thing more, I think, probably with that, that would become interesting from the point of view of the data side is then you get a whole demographics thing of the punters at the event and how smashed they got by the end of it as well, I suppose.
Yeah, so exciting innovation. Although it's kind of like a sad news to those who work on the bar because you don't need more staff behind the bar.
I hate self-service
especially
checkouts.
in the stadiums, like you mentioned. But yeah, so similarly to what you were saying, the under 25, a little child coming in, could there be like an ID? But although maybe if it's a club, there will probably be ID checkers before you go in.
Yeah.
And then also as a bar attendant, I know when someone is messed up, fucked up, you have to deny them access to. But then that's
yeah, you're not allowed to sell intoxicating liquors, etc. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so it was seen as the machines being very much within the bar, as in if this was quite often at festivals, you've literally got a plank of wood that becomes the bar, but you can then just throw the machines because I'm also seeing the machine being, rather than it being the coffee machine as it stands at the moment, it's literally just the monitor and the double sync unit that you can then drill into any piece of set. Because, when you look at, if you go to a festival or something and you look at the actual structure of the things around you, it's a few bits of ply and some number 8 wood screws screwed together. You just chop a hole in it and throw the telly and the double sync unit in. Boom, essentially you've got another person serving beer then faster than your bar staff can. Yes, it's a bit sad. I mean, I'd much prefer to go talk to the bar staff and annoy them, and then they probably won't serve me. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it makes more fun then. But it's that sort of when you're 20 deep, as the half-time whistle goes at the stadium and things like that. That's when these sort of machines we perceived would show their value. But yeah, I always avoid the self-checkout at the supermarket because I always have an unexpected item in my area.
Yeah, I'm also curious about the cup, bottom up. So what's the design about the cup?
So that's kind of their concept, but essentially there's a hole in the bottom of your beer glass, and inside the beer glass is like a flat fridge magnet. Like, think that's slightly bendy magnetic material. So it's like a sort of large old-fashioned penny. God, people wouldn't know what an old-fashioned penny is, would they? Let alone a new-fashioned penny. But yeah, like a big giant old-fashioned penny that then it just sort of clunks down onto the hole, and there's a magnet on the hole. When we did the summer barbecue thing, I think there was one person who managed to not pull the glass off cleanly. The other thing that, because we were doing free beer here, the other thing is you can go up to your mates and just poke the bottom of their glass like that. However, much as the same thing as when you bang one of your mates' bottle of beer and it all froths out. I can do it to you once and you go, oh yeah, really funny. Yeah, go and get me another beer now. And you're like, oh, no, I'm not going to get you another beer. And it's like, no, you are, because you've just wasted. I mean, especially at these sort of events where it's, 10 quid a beer. It's like, no, you're getting me another beer, man. You just wasted my beer. If you accidentally knocks it out of my hand, bit of a different scenario. You maliciously wasted my beer. You're getting me a replacement. Yeah, that was with malicious intent.
My question is a bit of all the development. It's in regards to how you when you finished talking, you talked about how at the end of the day, when all was done, what was remaining in your pocket was really close to nothing. So what are the learnings that you had as you developed this? Did you have found out a way of really costing the way you did all that development to the end, and what will you do differently?
Just say no. Great advice. And the beginning of the story of I got a phone call. Do you want to get involved in a thing? Just say no. However, my mind doesn't work like that, and I mean, I could have put the brakes on and gone right. You've got something. I mean, I showed you MVP twice at least there, that proved it was doable, and potentially gave my mate enough to carry on moving it forward. But there was the sort of excitement of, oh, I've got these people that want to get involved as well, and it could be a thing, and it might still be a thing, and I've got a day job anyway that pays my actual wages and keeps my roof over my head and things. So this was kind of for the lulz, really. Sounds like quite a good idea. Let's make a beer pump and then let's put it out to loads of festivals and things, and then then I can have my involvement in it would have been suitably involved that I could have rocked up vaguely as the beer pump tech to a festival, got a free in, but actually have somebody else who actually had to do any of the work. And again, we weren't looking to be the bar operators at festivals and things. We were looking to facilitate the existing contracts and existing bar operators. So again, we might go, well, we need a technician or two, or we need a couple of tickets, just in case. No, we're not going to knock that off the higher price, but yeah, we can now rock up to a festival, get smashed, and be beer pump techs, which I'm sure will involve lots of, QCing and yeah. So please, please submit your CVs.
You mentioned initially it was Wi-Fi, I think, for the connectivity. Could you not hardwire the cable in?
So yeah, very good point. So Wi-Fi and PDQ machines and festivals and stadiums and all nightmare scenarios. So the Pico, you can either go the Pico W, which then Wi-Fi, or I mean, again, this is another rabbit hole we went down. I'm sure I had a rabbit hole slide that I've lost somewhere. Which there's like a whiz board that gives you a hardwired Ethernet port, and they assure you that their libraries work. Maybe they do, but certainly not on. I think I tried 2 or 3 different versions of MicroPython and and nah, I can get them going. And then Tony's like, nah, you can't get them going, because Tony's done a lot of Pico projects as well, where he's had similar requirements of it would be nice to be hardwired. And I was like, oh, shut up, Tony, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to buy some of these. And yeah, they don't work, do they? Great. So that's one of the advantages of course, having a proper real full fat Pi. You do then still come back round to the PDQ machine, but the PDQ cradle does have wired as well. And then at festivals now, you either take Starlink with you, or festivals will provide hardwired internet that essentially is then reselling Starlink, which, because all the traders at a festival, if the PDQ machines go down at a festival now, it's not, cash isn't a thing anymore, is it? I mean, I don't know how drug dealers work anymore, but I think they all take card. But yeah, so you've got to have connectivity, but it's got to be wired. Sorry? Yeah. I've got to get this Telegram. Sounds like great for a night out. Yeah, we could do a night out on Telegram with Grindr, cocaine, and
Keith, I'm going to have to wrap it up in a sec, but one final question.
It's probably a good point to wrap it up, really, isn't it?
Yeah, alert, shut down. Can you tell us kind of where this is at, just quickly, at the moment? Is it out there commercially? Is it still kind of in the early phases? Is it? Will we see these anywhere? If we go to a festival this year or next?
Not yet, I'm afraid. So the person who changed jobs once has now changed jobs again. Salesperson and advertising, but it did sort of re-poke its head up just last week, and yeah, we must get that going again. There was the share certificates were supposed to be being dealt with and done by his accountant. Shares in nothing, but then I reckon we can make a double sync unit for about a couple of grand. And if we had a fleet of 10 of those, then that's sort of a fairly viable bar to set up that you can come along, hire that for the weekend. Here's a price. You connect up the beer pumps. Because the other big bit with it, actually, that I didn't speak about is the whole beer delivery thing and chilling beer. And there's a whole load of stuff around that, which again, it's sort of interesting, but I don't really want to get involved in that end of beer, really. So the bar operators already understand all of that. The only thing with this is you've got to have twice as much chilling as you normally would, because the beer fills up twice as fast because of the way the valve works. But then that also is another reason how you can sell beer even faster, partly because of the bottoms up system, and it's got basically 4 holes that come out of the valve that are the same size as a normal beer pump hole, so it can go that much faster. And you've got people self-serving, which then makes it go faster and la la la. But yeah, so the idea is we're all going to put like a few grand in each, and then we'll have the fleet of 10 units, which, a couple of grand in the scheme of things kind of isn't a lot of money. And then, get a bit of steelwork made and away we go. And then I guess at that point I should actually finish the web page that makes the front end of it. And that will probably drive me forward to do it.
You've got to face it eventually.
Yeah.
Got to face it eventually.
Yeah, bloody JavaScript.
Well, Andy's sitting here. Yeah, nice. That's amazing. Well, can we get a big round of applause for Keys? That's amazing. Awesome. Well, it's come to that time then to kind of wrap things up. We've run a little bit over tonight waiting for pizza. And no, Keith, you were absolutely amazing. It was my bad waiting for pizza. So there's I've got a ton of questions for Keith and just generally. So we are going to try and head to a pub nearby if anyone wants to join. If not, of course, we'd love to see you at the next event. One of the things I can't recommend enough is getting in our Slack group. So Silicon Brighton run the Slack space, but within that space, there are many, many groups, ours being one of them. And between the events, we talk about projects, we're talking about difficulties, can we get answers, it's a community in there. So if you're not in there, I can't recommend enough getting in there, basically. And yeah, huge thanks to Silicon Brighton and Freedom Works for the space. I mean, we literally couldn't do this without Steve and Charlie and Grace and Maureen. So yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll wrap things up. And thank you for coming.